And we have with us Sister Gayatri. If you remember, she was there with us last time, 2 weeks ago. She shared on success. And I had told all of you that I will be sharing about her half biodata. I had saved it for this time. So again, it won't be too elaborate, but you all know she is belonging to the Brahma Kumari since almost more than 40 years now, and a very staunch representative of the Brahma Kumaris at the United Nations since 1980. And last time I told you about the 5 Ps of the Sustainable Development Goals, which she's involved in. But her key role in UN is to identify areas of United Nations policies with practical relevance to individual and community lives. And therefore, she explores a lot on value-based and spiritual dimensions of those. And that's the reason she's one of the ideal speakers to cover on value-based talks. And she has expanded the awareness through the BK networks in almost 120 countries now. So hats off to her. She also serves as the vice chair to the International Day of Yoga Committee. All of you know, it's celebrated on 21st June every year. And 3 other things, she has served on the board of directors of EVO. I had told you all before as well, EVO. EVO is Images and Voices of Hope. She's also been on the part of the design team for the Call of Time dialogues. These are those programs which used to happen, a global leadership dialogue program. She was a part of that, designing. And also lastly, she's an honorary member of the advisory board of the Cosmos Journal for Global Transformation. And again, as usual, I'll just say a few lines in the form of a poem. So, you know, Sister Gayatri reminded us of the Gayatri mantra. I mean, I can't gather courage to, though I know the mantra, but I can't, I don't sing so well, I feel. So let me just not sing that, but in the poem, let me just tell you a few things about that. So Gayatri mantra, we all know, is the holiest and the highest. And so is Sister Gayatri, who is the Supreme's child, the luckiest and the sweetest. So holiest and highest, luckiest and sweetest. Being the vice chair at the UN, she's indeed the richest, yet honest, because under the Supreme's canopy, she's made her nest. So she's richest, yet honest, and has made her nest with Supreme. Next few lines on honesty. Honesty indeed is the best policy, which is truly the foundation of every democracy. So policy for every democracy. And today we also fondly remember Uncle Steve, who was Gayatri sister's Lokik father. So we also fondly remember Uncle Steve on this auspicious occasion of Navratra Eve. His connection with the Supreme was so very strong, which has made Sister Gayatri on her journey come along. A long way Sister Gayatri has come. Also credit goes to Uncle Steve. Though all of us undoubtedly love our dear Lokik father, but let's not forget to establish the connection with our Supreme Godfather. And today, by taking Sister's insight and wisdom, which shall prevent us from going into boredom. So let's not get into the mode of boredom and listen to her wisdom. And with this, I would like now to just stop sharing. And Sister Gayatri, thank you once again for joining. Om Shanti. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Very beautiful introduction. And thank you for including my father, my Lokik father, and my Alokik, Sweet Brahma Baba, and Parlokik, the Supreme Father, before I start on this subject. But my question is, did Ken take up honesty last week? Was that his value?
Yes, it was indeed, yeah.
And I wonder why you're repeating it.
Actually, what we do is we repeat the same value in the form of a workshop. So we do the first 1 hour as an exercises on that value, and then you're churning, the speaker's churning on honesty, a different perspective.
Okay, let's hope it's different. So let me start. You know, there is a saying here that in the West, you never start with an apology. But I will just break that rule because that's my nature. I break rules. And because I don't live my life by rules, I live it by principles. And so I'm going to break the rule here and start with an apology. And that apology is, if I repeat and I sound as though I don't know what I'm saying on the subject, forgive me in advance, because you had the maestro talk to you on honesty last week. But I will share with you aspects of honesty from, I suppose, a personal perspective rather than a systemic perspective. And I will begin by saying that there's a little bit of cynicism inside of me, and maybe that's because I spend a lot of my time working in an environment where people of the political system come together. And of course, they say honesty is the best policy and it is foundational to democracy is indeed a joke in today's world. We live in a world in which corruption has taken the place of honesty, and that is seen in very simple ways. Like, in order to get something done, I need to give a bribe. Now, long ago, maybe one would think twice of bribing someone, of getting what one is supposed to do for the community or the society, because he was placed there to do it. And in order to get it done, I need to then give a bribe to that person to do it. It tells me that honesty has been removed and corruption has been instated as the norm. So I think for me, everybody wants the truth, but very few people want to be honest in living their lives. Because it's easier to pay the money and get what I want, get my visa, for instance, than saying no to that visa because I want to uphold an honest system. So for me, honesty is a valuable trait in a world full of false promises. And some believe that at this moment in time, which is a cultural shift, which we would say a spiritual shift, that would bring in a new normal. The new normal is calling for humanity to relook at this virtue of honesty. And focusing on honesty is a way, it's not a passive thing. It's a way to actively engage with my world versus passively complaining about it. The saying that the truth should be told when it's convenient is a beautiful one. But think about what that saying says. The truth should be told when it's convenient. How about the truth shouldn't be told and should be told only when it's convenient? And I think corruption is like that. It's that the truth is withheld and it comes out in interpretations, in manipulations, in ways that is convenient to the one who wants to get whatever is the benefit that they're after. So to me, that shouldn't be it. Truth shouldn't be told only when it's convenient, because it will interfere with the honesty as a way of life. So what does honesty mean to me? And I will use some of the words that Ken used, because within an environment that I work in, I constantly have to check myself against that environment that I serve in. So I'm going to share with you what honesty means to me in relation to an individual working or serving through a system, but also an individual living within the community of the Brahma Kumaris. And so honesty for me means to care deeply about trust. Honesty for me means valuing the importance of integrity. And honesty for me means being transparent in my relationships. Honesty is also me, what it means is that I try to do my best and I'm willing to accept the consequences when I miss the mark, when I'm not able to do my best. Honesty means that I respect others enough to want to tell them the truth as that truth appears in my life in that moment. Honesty means that I value myself. I value myself enough never to tell a lie or to cheat. You know, there was once when Daddy Prakashmani stood on a public platform and made an announcement. She just said, I never told a lie in my life. And I think she stunned the audience. She stunned all of us because I couldn't stand up and say that. I never told a lie in my life. But honesty for me is a way to value myself so that I could uphold an aspiration to never tell a lie. You know, when people think of honesty, they think that it's simple. But indeed, it's simple. But we have complicated our lives in such a way that the things that are simple and easy and natural are no longer so. So never to lie, what I'm saying, it means if I don't lie to someone, that person will trust me. So never lie to someone who trusts me. And then the opposite to that is interesting. Never trust someone who lies to you. But from a spiritual perspective, do I just stop trusting just because someone lies to me? Because if I do that, I'm tampering with my ability to trust. And so I need to understand that my trust will enable me never to lie to someone. However, if someone lies to me, it shouldn't interfere with my ability to trust. And so I think that it is very critical to understand a few of these balances that I will share with you. And Manoj Bhai, please indicate if I'm going over time, because I tend to get very involved in talking and forget to look at the time. So these balances would be truth, honesty and truth. So let's look at this first balance, this critical balance of honesty and truth. On this spiritual path of Raj Yoga, we are told to be honest in our efforts of living a soul conscious life. There was a beautiful slogan the other day. Let there be honesty in your efforts, in your spiritual endeavor. And it was interesting how honesty was put in relation to efforts. And so honesty in the efforts of living a soul conscious life. Now, what's the spiritual truth that would be based on? The spiritual truth would be the soul is living, the soul is life, the soul is eternal. This is a spiritual truth. I'm a soul in the human form, and I'm experiencing life through the human form. So my life coach is actually life. And so that's the truth. Honesty and truth are words that are often overlapping one another. So sometimes we don't know the difference between what is honesty and what is being truthful. I will attempt to, when I looked at this, I'm attempting to make it clear to you, but hopefully it is going to be clear to you the way I see it. So honesty for me refers to the quality of being truthful and sincere, whereas truthfulness refers to the quality of my telling the truth. So honesty is a quality of being truthful and sincere, and truthfulness, it refers to the quality of me telling the truth. Honesty for me emphasizes that the individual is not only truthful in what I'm saying, but also sincere in my words and actions based on what I believe to be the truth. So I'm following the principle of truth, but it's permeating my words and actions in being honest. To me, truthfulness refers to telling the truth, in expressing what I know to be true. And so in this sense, truth is something that's factual, it's right or wrong, or truth is connected to a moral or a spiritual reality. So for something to be true, it has to be acknowledged as the truth by a group of people whom I trust. And being truthful for me is when an individual or when I correspond or align this factual truth that I have, for instance, the vaccine, the COVID vaccine is a factual thing, or my moral and spiritual reality. So I'll be connecting to that. I'll be aligning to that to know what the truth is. For me, because I'm on a spiritual path, the spiritual reality is where I turn to for truth. So spiritual knowledge, as revealed by Baba and the Brahma Kumaris, is considered for me as truth. So when I'm told you are a soul and you're not a body, that for me is truth. And so as a person, I can be truthful by expressing what I believe to be true, and that is I am a soul. But my honesty isn't just in expressing that. I could know it is a truth, but it's not that I have honesty just because I'm expressing it as a truth. But honesty, because in just expressing it, the mere expression of truth is insufficient to qualify me as being honest. And so the truth should be inculcated. This word dharna has two levels to it. One is I'm inculcating that truth, that I'm a soul. And so by inculcating it, I'm repeating it. This is what the word inculcate means. I'm repeating it over and over again. And so I could remember it clearly, and I can even expand on it and express it and give a beautiful class on it. However, honesty is a second level, which is I have to imbibe that truth. I have to drink it. It has to go straight into the bloodstream of the soul. And so that is, I have to absorb it and allow it to become part of my character trait, a natural way of my being. And it has to permeate now through my attitude and my behavior. And that for me is honesty. So in essence, honesty refers to the quality of being truthful and sincere in living out the truth that I am a soul. Whereas truthfulness refers to the quality of telling the truth that is describing soul consciousness. And that for me is the distinction. And that is why we find ourselves when we were going through things as spiritual pilgrims or people aspiring for spiritual consciousness. And I'm going through something and someone is explaining it to me in words and telling me, well, you should do this and you should do that, but I don't have the power to do it. Then the truth be told and the truth is listened to. But the honesty becomes challenged because really, honestly, I can't do what you just told me to do, even though it's the truth. And so honesty is more imbibing of that truth, and that's where the practice comes in. The radical honesty for me is that what would be a practice that I would have that would support that. And I feel for me, the radical honesty that I have with myself is to accept that my mind is the biggest liar. My mind is always lying to me. And so I need to have a courageous conversation with myself periodically during the day, which I do. And when I find myself being manipulated by my mind, by my thoughts, because my mind is connected to my senses, and my senses are connected to what's happening in the outside world. And so when my mind starts manipulating me, and when my mind starts manipulating others, I have a courageous conversation with my mind. And as I look at the situation, as I, the soul, look at the fullness of that situation, and my mind is trying to take me into directions that I know would either result in lying or cheating or manipulating or exploiting or abusing or doing what I know to be wrong and making it right, then I ask my mind the question, how do you lie to me? And then when I consistently ask that question to my mind, then I take my mind through a cleansing process. Because for me, mindfulness, I don't know how Ken described it, but mindfulness, according to John Cabot, is about being in the moment. But for me, mindfulness is something that is also examining what that mind is doing to me and how my thoughts lie to me. So I would expand on that and use the word man manabhav. And man manabhav is a spiritual endeavor of taking the mind and connecting it to a supreme being and connecting it to the one source of strength and support, so the mind could be cleansed, so that it doesn't take me into directions of dishonesty. The second balance that I thought about was the balance of honesty and integrity. And for me, integrity is connected to trustworthiness. And so being honest is being open and being trustworthy in relation to this balance. And so when I am honest with others, people could rely on me not to lie, cheat, or steal, not to take them into those areas. So because trustworthiness means that they know that I'm operating from a principle of truth. In this relation of honesty and integrity, people expect certain things from me, and I think they're my vulnerabilities. And that is admitting mistakes that I may have made. And when I admit those mistakes, the mistake that caused someone to be angry, a mistake that caused someone to be disappointed, I admit it. I take a look at it. I look at what just happened. To me, that is being honest with integrity. And being honest means that I don't pretend to be something that I'm not. I don't put myself, people may put me on a pedestal, but I don't put myself on a pedestal, because I am someone who is an effort maker, and I have to look at the honesty in making those efforts. So I have to, if someone got angry with me, I have to take the time to be honest with myself, to say, this person is angry with me, what just happened? So then I take myself into looking at that. And so why do I do that? Because being honest means that I don't pretend to be something else that I'm not, or what other people expect me to be. I'm not creating layers of identity based on social norms, but I'm being honest with that true identity. And so with honesty, I can trust things as they appear, and people can trust me as I appear. And so integrity in relation to this honesty would then mean that I'm standing up for what I believe to be right. And I'm living my life by those highest values. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that I'm putting someone down when they stand up and they believe for what is right. So honesty and integrity is like leaving a space for us to dance, for us to understand one another, for us to accept. No matter where I am or who I am and with whom I'm doing something, I will always act in a way that would correspond or align with something that I think I'm acting in the best way. I'm acting in the best interest of, whether it's the person or whether it's of myself. And that is not subjected to whom I'm with or where I'm at, but it should be a consistency in the way I operate with that honesty that brings out an integrity. If I'm a person of integrity, my words and actions will match my inner intentions and motives. I wouldn't fool others, nor would I fool myself. But the most important thing, the most important way we're dishonest with ourselves is when we fool ourselves into doing that which we know is wrong for us to do. And that it starts with telling that white lie. A child of 3 years old in early childhood development will never tell a lie in and of themselves. Children catch values. And when they replicate the behaviors of adults, that's how they learn to tell lies. And so I think adults fool themselves a lot in telling white lies, teaching which their children catch. And then in early childhood development, once that gets formed as a values-based behavior, after 5 years old, you cannot get that out of the child because their value system would have been formed at 5 years old. And this is a UNESCO educational report on early childhood development. So I would suggest to you that integrating honesty with integrity would require just 3 simple things for us to start with and to look at, because spirituality is simple. Actually, spiritual sense is common sense. And so I'm looking at it from this simple, lens of making spiritual sense common sense, which means an everyday way of living. So honesty with integrity would mean keeping my word. If I want to be worthy of trust, I must deliver on my promises. And without excuses and without even conditions that may change, let your yes be yes. And when it comes to your saying no, let your no. Be honest with others, keep your word. The second is keeping your commitments. And this is where Brahma Baba, our founder, was very, very good in his honesty with time. And his honesty with time was his punctuality. So if I'm going to be somewhere at 11, let it be 11. And if I'm going to be delayed, I need to inform the other. I need to notify them. Because being in time, being on time for my appointments, being on time when I set an appointment with someone, when I say I'm going to meet you at this time, at this place, is actually telling that person something about me that they should trust. And what they're trusting is that I will show up, and I will show up on time. And if I can't show up on time, I will respect them enough to tell them I cannot do that, and not just assume that it's fine if they can wait for me. Now, this is a little thing, but it tells a lot about our relationship with time, our honesty with time, and our character at that level. Because people feel let down, people feel used, people feel shunned, people feel as though they're not valued. If we have little regard for their time and more regard for our own time, and this will eventually question their trust in us. The third is taking responsibility. And I mentioned it before. Everyone makes mistakes. And we make mistakes in both our personal lives and in our professional lives. But for me, honesty with integrity means I will admit those mistakes and I will not be afraid to say, I'm sorry, or I got that wrong, or I couldn't see it at that time. We had some versions last week, Sunday actually, on which words were positioned as very powerful. Well, words are powerful, but if we don't back up those words with our actions, people will not see us as a person of integrity. And so to be that level of integrity with honesty, it also calls on us to look at our vulnerabilities, to look at our mistakes, and to own up on them. And then the third is honesty with transparency. And this I find is where the corruption in the world has peaked. The world, in the name of democracy, there is no transparency left. And so today, when we're looking at something like the Sustainable Development Goals at the UN, and we're looking at the roots of the tree of the Sustainable Goals, the roots are put into the word transformation. While transformation does not happen automatically or miraculously, if we want to change, we will have individuals, and this is why we, the peoples, is a very important statement, because we will have to challenge ourselves at the deepest and the most difficult level. And the deepest and most difficult level is to challenge ourselves at the level of soul consciousness, at the level of soul. Because these two most fearsome hurdles, the two fearsome hurdles that we will have to cross when we're looking at the deepest and most difficult levels of soul consciousness, would be honesty and transparency. Because transformation occurs within the two pillars of honesty and transparency. So I'll just share with you some of the things that this balance of honesty and transparency would help us with. And that is, when honesty is when I share something that I perceive to be true with transparency. Transparency is a UN value, and it means that I'm sharing something to the best that I know it, taking everything into consideration as far as I can perceive it. So that transparency will be that others will acknowledge that I have done that and see it as a truth. It is said that honesty is always the best policy, which I say initially that today I don't think that applies anymore. But is it really so in our world today? So what is truth exactly in relation to transparency? And is it always better to share the truth, even if it hurts someone? So this is the balance. These are questions that we will have to face at this deeper level of soul consciousness within the pillars of honesty and transparency. When I'm sharing the truth, is it always better to share that truth, even if it will hurt someone? Or should I sometimes keep my version of the truth to myself, especially if I know it's going to spare the feelings of others, it's going to not hurt them? And when it comes to healthy relationships, because honesty and transparency, to me, they are two pillars within relationships, whether they're relationships, interpersonal relationships, or whether they're relationships between countries, or whether it's my relationship with my environment as well. So these are found within relationships. So I'll have to ask myself these deeper questions. And so should I be sensitive to the feelings of others, or should I be downright honest with them? And so these are dilemmas that maybe we have to look at in relation to the situations we find ourselves in. But the honesty does require transparency ultimately in these relationships. And so you're always going to put yourself in and ask yourself questions regarding that relationship. And it would be the same things people will have in relation to you. So it's important to start with the self. So the question is, could I be honest with this person? I mean, could I really, really be honest with him or her? When I ask myself that question, at that time, I'm not really asking myself, am I to tell this person the truth? Or how much am I being transparent with them? Now, there is a distinction here in which I have to tell the truth. I'm going to tell you the truth that you have cancer. The doctor just said that you have cancer and you have 6 months to live or 6 years to live or whatever may be the case. Now, that's the truth. But I'm asking myself the question in terms of transparency, how honest will I be with this person? Will I be really, really honest and tell him the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God? Or will I be transparent with them? Now, for me, honesty in this kind of transparency is about telling the truth in a way that would be loving, would be kind, would be gentle, would also be giving them strength and support in order to listen to what it is I'm revealing to them as the truth. So for me, transparency in being honest is being open and honest about the facts and to relate it to the person in such a way that they are able to take it in dosages that doesn't break the person or doesn't make the person become helpless or disheartened or disappointed. And I think that this is something that honesty and transparency, we are challenged by a lot. And it is something that we have to master more as an art of life. Now, we can demand honesty from someone else. But if we are not first and foremost honest and transparent with ourselves, we most certainly cannot expect the same in return. So when I am interacting with that person, then it's a lot of work I'm doing inside of me to be honest and transparent with this information I have about them and how best to expose them to it. I think that in life, we are always graced with new opportunities to connect with people. And this is another element of transparency and honesty, is that when we meet someone new that is different from me, and I already have prejudices against based on historical factors, I tend to become very guarded against this person. I tend to scrutinize everything that the person says because of these guards that I have based on things of the past. Now, whether my family or I myself was hurt by what this person represents, or whether it's just historical facts, but the guards come up and the transparency is then lost because I start placing people in different categories. I start putting them in spaces that they don't necessarily deserve to be in. And so then I become very resistant to them, or I reject them, or I get into my superiority complex or my inferiority complex mode. And this is not honesty and transparency in meeting people that are new, including I hope you take up this principle one day, or the value one day of inclusion. I'm not including them. And this is not soul conscious behavior. This is not operating on the truth, being honest on the truth of soul consciousness. So I think that honesty is the ability to tell the truth when someone asks you a specific question, and you respond to that in the way you feel, to tell the person what they need to know at that time. I think that is acceptable. So it is knowing the truth and telling the truth. And in between the two spectrum, based on your honesty with that truth and speaking that truth, you will go through your own imbibing of honesty in order to do that. And sometimes you may want to conceal things. And so this is the art, another spiritual art of concealing and revealing, but you're not concealing to be hurtful to the person, but you're concealing in the moment so that the person gets the strength to hear the next phase of it. But you will continue in the process with the person to do that. You will invest in them in order for them to do that. And so with honesty, we can leave out certain aspects of truth because someone might not be ready to or able to accept that truth. But we will think, before even revealing one aspect of the truth, we will always hold the whole truth as we're revealing the parts of the truth, because we know ultimately the whole truth has to be given to them. Sometimes in extreme situations, people will use honesty as a weapon against another. Now, this is something we have to be very much aware of. Do I ever know something about another and gossip about it with someone else? And in so doing, was dishonest with the person dishonest with both, dishonest with the person I'm gossiping about and dishonest with the person I'm gossiping with. Now, why is that? That is dishonesty. Gossiping is a big form of dishonesty. And that is, why do I do it? Is it that I'm doing it because I want to malign that person? Is it I'm doing it because I want to help that person? And in doing that, if I want to help the person, is it the right method? Is it an honest method that I'm using? And that's what I have to look at in terms of my transparency. You see, people don't and won't respect us if we have taken away their ability to decide whether they want to move forward with us or if we are not honest with them. Now, after I've gossiped about that person and that person heard that I've gossiped about them, then I have to face the consequence of that. Now, that person may decide, I no longer can trust you, and I no longer want you in my life, and I want to move forward without you. Honesty with transparency would be, I accept what I have done was wrong to the person, and I must give them the freedom to do what they want without holding anything against them. And so I believe that ultimately with transparency and honesty, what we are competing with that makes that so hard, makes it so difficult, is we are competing with ego, we are competing with pride, and we are competing with fear, with that arrogance. And in doing the work for transformation with the two pillars of honesty and transparency, is that we're trying to grow ourselves in a deep and wise way so that we could understand this beautiful virtue of honesty and its implications on being soul conscious, and how soul consciousness calls for honesty. I cannot be soul conscious if I'm not honest, and I cannot be honest if I'm not soul conscious. And so I think that the battle to remain honest and transparent with ourselves and those around us We don't have to be battling on our own. And this is where there's a beautiful practice in meditation that we have, and it's called a heart-to-heart conversation. And it's a heart-to-heart conversation with God. So I need to be transparent with God if I'm going to imbibe and allow for this virtue of honesty to flow through me into my relationships as I live my life in this world. So how do I have that heart-to-heart conversation with God with transparency? Is first of all, I'll talk to God and start with where you're at, not where you want to be, but start with where you're at. Tell God what you're struggling with. Let him know what you're afraid of, to be transparent in what it is I'm not ready to look at because it's too difficult for me to do that. Then ask God to help you with the strength and support, with the yoga, with the strength that I pull from the Shakti that is connected to the source of Shiva. So we're celebrating Navratri, we're celebrating the goddesses, the Shiv Shaktis, but the Shakti comes from that source of Shiva. So draw that. And I think one of the other things in this conversation is, as I'm having the conversation and as I'm talking about what's going on for me, at the same time, if this is what's called connect the yoga of the intellect with one supreme source, because the intellect is my power to discern. And if that is connected, and that means if my intellect is connected to God, I won't be judging myself or judging others, but I'll be stable and I'll be unshakable and I'll be connected. And this would allow that intellect of mine to discern the signals of God, of what was the departure from the truth, from the principles of truth that clouded the transparency, that didn't allow the flow of honesty to happen. And so I think that this would allow me to live my life recognizing those soul, I call them soul illuminated moments in my life. So as I live my life, when I do traffic control, for instance, and I stop every hour to be connected to God, it will be a soul illuminating moment of being honest and transparent. And if I could do that for 1 minute every hour, the 59 minutes will also carry the properties of transparency that would allow my honesty to flow. And so finally, I ask you to do one thing as a homework for 10 days. You see, research has shown that if we were to experiment with honesty, now you may choose one: honesty and truth, honesty and transparency, honesty and integrity, honesty, however you wanted to choose your honesty. But if you were to experiment with it for 10 days, you would experience a lot of benefits, even at a well-being level. And so this experiment was asking for to do just one thing, and that is to stop telling lies, to stop telling even white lies. So for 10 days, I take a pledge, I make a commitment to stop telling lies, to stop telling even white lies. You could do it for 10 weeks. They're asking for 10 weeks, but I'm saying, okay, try it for 10 days. But if you did it for 10 weeks, it means that this is some of the benefits that you would experience. And that the benefits would be, you would find your body relaxing. There will be fewer physical ailments, it said, and the ailments would be in fewer headaches. Being dishonest is a direct connection with migraine headaches. You would have fewer mental health complaints. You would find yourself less into depression. You would feel better in your relationships and in your social connections. But most of all, you would feel better about yourself. So I would say, start an honesty journal and start with 10 days, but with an aim to take it to 10 weeks. And start with this one commitment in it: I will not tell a lie. Be like Daddy Kumarka. I have never told a lie in my life. And start with the white lies that we tell. And this would require us to have a courageous conversation with our mind. And every time the mind attempts to lie, you challenge that mind. How do you lie? Why are you lying? And I think that it would be good that if you jot down instances throughout the day that you had to make choices about honesty. And when you have to make choices about knowing that the mind is about to lie to you and you're about to be dishonest, and then you chose to be honest, how did it make you feel? What was the feeling there? And so keeping an honesty journal initially could feel like a struggle because we begin to see how we lie to ourselves. But once we get into the rhythm of honesty, we will begin to know what honesty feels like and the power that it brings. And so my last words to you would be, I was told that the millennial generations, which is the younger generation, is today a generation with a very, they're called cultural creatives, but I also call them spiritual creatives. And they're creating a whole new consciousness. And the consciousness that they want from their employers as they sign up for jobs is a high level of honesty. And it's honesty with all three. Maybe not so much truth, but it's honesty with the ethics of the organization. That's their mission and vision and value statements. It's honesty with integrity. Are the people living up to that as individuals? But most importantly, it's honesty with transparency. Are you telling me it as it is? Or are you hiding it and telling me something else? Am I making corruption the norm, or am I looking for the truth? So I think that they are redefining honesty, and I love it, and in which they're no longer asking for a moral code, because you see, honesty is always put within the construct of morality, but they're asking for an honor code. The honor code is the spiritual aspect of it. Are you walking your talk? Are you living your life based on what you're saying and what you're doing and what you're telling us, and what's the truth? Because morality always carries element of guilt. And so we're moving from the moral code to an honor code, and the honor code is based on spirituality, and even not honor, maybe honor is not the right word even, but a noble code of spirituality. So I end there because, as you say, I did a lot of churning on myself, because honesty comes back to how I show up in the world and not what's going wrong in the system. Because if I look at what's going wrong in the system, I have a lot to complain about. But if I look at myself in relation to the system, I can at least do something to make a difference in understanding honesty as a way of living and not just a truth to be told. Om Shanti.
Not sure if Manoj is there. Maybe he was here just a few seconds ago. Maybe internet issue, and he gone. Just give me 1 second to check. Okay, so I think until Manoj Bhai joins, maybe I can just bring up. I don't think we have time for any questions, but it was very, very empowering, Sister Gayatri. I think every word that you spoke was a method, and that will enable us to really choose and imbibe honesty. I really loved it. Everything is such a method, but what you said stayed with me is that honesty is a way to value the self, and do not lie to those who trust you, but also do not temper your ability to trust when others lie to me. And that itself is the spiritual endeavor I think we all need to go through. And you also said that heart-to-heart conversation with that divine being will give me that power, and really holding on to that compassion, that I can empower others, not like telling a truth, honest, that will break their heart or disempower them. So that was really beautiful. And we always, it is such invaluable class that we get in these workshops, because we create the synopsis, the summary, and it goes to all of us. We practice, truly practice to imbibe. And the YouTube videos are always available, and we watch so many times later on. So I'm sure all of us here are going to take it on. And I can't thank you enough. Thanks a lot from the heart. Gayatri, and I think Manoj brother is here. Are you, give me 1 second to make him co-host.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, internet went off and I'm just logging from the mobile data now. Yeah, so thank you so much, Sister Gayatri, and it went on time. Like I was there for the entire talk, the last part just switched off. So Anu sister, if you want to just show the announcements, I'll just do that. Yeah, Sister Gayatri will just quickly do the announcements and then go in the meditation with you. Yeah. So Anu sister, if you can do that, and I'll just mention. If you can share the screen, please. Yeah, okay, great. So as all of you know that we have entered the Navratri now, and since it's the third day today now, so it's everything about power. Even Sister Gayatri mentioned, invoke the Shaktis inside. So the next coming 2 and 2.5 weeks, I must say, everything is about the by virtue of power. So our next episode is with Brother Eric, who's the National Coordinator of Canada. It's on 16th. Next slide, please. And we are very fortunate that Dashera is just after the 9 days, 17th of October, we have with us our dear Asha Didi from ORC, who will be explaining us what is this, the spiritual significance of Dashera. How do we invoke the powers within, and how do we really take care of that Ravan, how to destroy him fully. And next. And finally, as we normally do our workshop, I'll come to that after this. So if you remember that Sister Gayatri, we had started this series 1 year ago. So it's exactly 1 year now on the World Values Day, something which is there every year, celebrated 21st October this time. But we wanted to do it with all our seniors. So Wednesday was the day where all were free. So we are doing it on Wednesday, 28th October, and it's the first birthday, which we say, of our Values for Life series. So we'll be having all the 3 senior sisters, Moini Didi, Jayanti Didi, and even Brother Ken and Brother Eric would be conversing with them.
Okay,
so all of you
great.
Thanks. And
please send me this link. I'd like to come on and
absolutely, yeah, because all our past speakers will definitely be sent the link. It will be a pleasure to have all of you. Thank you so much. I'll send you definitely. And the last one would be the workshop, which is on power. I think you have to show that, Sister Anu. I think it's not there probably. But anyway, Sister Manda from UK would be covering that. It's just not there. That's okay. So without much ado, so we'll be sending you all the invitations and links, all the participants who have joined you. So don't need to worry. You don't need to note it down anywhere. And we'll just now go in the meditation mode. And Anu sister, if you can just play some soft music in the background. So we'll go in the meditation with you, Sister Gayatri. Yeah.
You know, God sees us all as souls. And God looks at what is core to soul consciousness. soul conscious is truth. God is truth. The drama of life is truth. I, the soul, I'm aware that truth puts my life into the invisible hands of God. God leads me live a life on these principles of truth, which he calls Srimad. God knows that in order to walk this path he's guiding me through, I need to emerge core value of honesty. When I take a step of honesty on the path of truth, God helps me one thousandfold. When I take the next step with honesty, God is pleased with my honest heart. When I take the third step with honesty, I trust myself and others trust me. I'm trustworthy. Each step of honesty in a world of falsehood can only be taken with soul consciousness. I, the soul, in the consciousness of being a child of God. Honesty naturally flows. It allows me to live a life of truth, of integrity, of transparency. Honesty upholds my respect for the one who is holding the hand of my life. And to know there is no space for dishonesty on this path of truth. Om Shanti.
So, Om Shanti. Can't you unmute, brother? Okay, hold on, because you joined back again. Nice. How internet playing a role today. Yeah, you can unmute now. No? Okay, I made you go.
Yeah, now I can. Thank you so much, Gayatri sister, for your time and for your contributions twice on success and honesty. Really a pleasure to have you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you all for having me, and I appreciate being invited for 2 sessions. And good luck with the rest of the values program. And I hope you will include the value of inclusion. I think it's a very important value at this point of time in the
Yeah,
world.
I've just written that down and you'll be the speaker for that.
No, I won't. You can get someone else. I didn't volunteer. But I also want to acknowledge all your comments in the chat. I appreciate them, and I treat them as blessings, because we're all effort makers on this path. And appreciation is really very important. And thank you for appreciating whatever you took benefit from. And I appreciate you for sharing them with me. Thank you.